Hello and welcome. Today, there we go. Today we are going to be creating a new project. So this project is 4 steps. The first thing we're going to learn how to do in Blender is we're going to learn how to create a backdrop or a background. The second step we're going to do is we're going to add in the shapes in front of our background. The third is that we're going to add a light source, and this is the main aspect of this project. Also, the most new thing that we're going to do. We have not gone over this yet. And then the fourth is we're going to render it, which is just a pretty easy step, but it lets us see our lights pretty well. So let's get into it. I've opened up Blender. As you can see, this is what it looks like automatically. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of this cube. I don't really need it. It's kind of in the way. So again, I can get rid of it 2 ways. The first is I can right click and go all the way down to delete, or I can just hit the delete button on my keyboard. I want to make sure that it's selected first. So I'm deleting the correct thing. So I see this little select box up here. I click on the object I want to delete and then hit delete. You know it's selected because you have that orange outline around it. Okay, so let's start with step 1 now that we have our Blender all ready for us. So you might remember that I said step 1 is to add a backdrop. So to add a backdrop, we're going to add what's called a plane. And you might remember from when we created Suzanne with the party hat, our monkey with the party hat, we're going to be doing essentially that same thing. We're going to be adding a mesh. Now there's 2 ways you can do this. You can either go to this top toolbar up here. It says object mode, view, select, add an object. You can go to add, mesh, and plane. That is one way you can add this backdrop. Or you can go to Shift A. Shift A brings up that same toolbar. It brings us to plane, and I can just click on that. So you can see that a plane is essentially just a shape, 2-dimensional shape. Doesn't really have any sides to it. Doesn't have, we can't really scroll around it and see the different sides of it. So this is how I'm going to start. I'm going to make my plane a little bit bigger. So to do that, I'm just going to reference my handy dandy cheat sheet. And I'm going to make sure it's selected. I know because it has this orange outline. And I'm just going to hit S for scale. So this essentially can just change the scale or the size of this plane. This looks pretty good to me. To deselect it, you just click and that stops it from scaling. Okay. So again, I added my plane, hit S to make it bigger. That looks pretty good to me. To make it a backdrop or a smooth kind of plane that curves like this, we're going to do that. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to edit this shape to kind of bring it up and give it that curve. To do that, I'm going to go to edit mode. Once I'm in edit mode, you can see because my plane kind of has this orange glow to it or this orange overlay. You may remember these 3 boxes from our last project where we changed the different plane colors of the different planes of our cube. So this one selects our corners. So I can click on the different corners or vertices. This one selects the edges. So this edge, and this one selects the face. So last time we used the face one, this time we're going to use the edge tool because we just want to manipulate a specific edge. So what I want to do is I'm going to show you a little shortcut on how to add this or how to manipulate this up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the shortcut E, which is extrude. So I just hit E on my keyboard, and as I move my mouse up, you can see that this shape is moving up. So again, I just made sure I was selected on that edge and hit E. So I can move this essentially anywhere I like. If I want to make it straight, I can hit Z to keep it on the Z axis. We can even see that little blue line start to show up. You don't have to do this, but I think it makes it look really nice and clean. So to stop that, I just click. So now I have this plane with a plane going up. So I have this shape. To make this into a proper backdrop, what we're going to do is we're going to smooth out this area right here. So to smooth it out, we are going to what is called bevel. So remember these tools up here. This selects the vertices, this selects the edges, and this selects the plane. We want to click on this edge right here. So we know that it's selected because it went from a black line to a white line. So with this edge right here, we're going to add a bevel, or we're just going to kind of smooth that out. So how we do that is Control, I'm looking at my handy dandy cheat sheet, is Control B. So on my keyboard, I'm just going to hit Control B with that edge selected. As I move my mouse up and down, you can see that it changes the bevel of this shape. So I can make it really big, I can make it really small, however you like. So again, I just was selected on that edge, and then I hit Control B. If I want to add more edges on that to kind of smooth it out, I'm just going to use this little scroll ball on my mouse. And if I scroll up, you can see I get more edges, which smooths it out. If I scroll back, I have less. So again, adding more makes it smoother. It makes your computer run a little bit slower too. So I'm just going to add a few. You can make it as big or as small as you like. I think I'll probably make mine about this big. I think this will do the job. To deselect it, I just click. So I was in edit mode. I'm just going to switch back to object mode. And you can see that kind of just finishes it off. We don't have to see these little, all of these little edges anymore. To get rid of them completely, you can right click, shade smooth, and now it's totally smooth. So I know that was a lot of steps for step one, so feel free to pause this here if you need to, go back, repeat anything, but that is step one, creating our background. Moving forward, we're going on to step two, which is adding our shapes. So to add our shapes, this is just like how we added our monkey, just like how we added our cone for our party hat. We're doing the exact same thing. So doing the long way on the screen, we can go to Add, Mesh, and instead of a plane, you can add any of these shapes. Or the shortcut, you can do Control A. Oops, I'm sorry. Shift A, not Control A, Shift A, and it'll take you to the same place. You can go to Mesh, and then you can add any of these shapes. So I might want to add a cube, and you can play around with this as much as you like. You can add any shapes you like. You can make them bigger. You can make them smaller. You can rotate them, scale them, whatever you want to do. Hopefully you kept track of your handy dandy control cheat sheet, but if you haven't, I'll run through them really quickly. So I added this shape. I know it's selected because I have this cursor, and this shape is completely highlighted in orange. It has an orange outline. It looks like it's kind of cut in half by our backdrop, so I'm just going to bring my shape to the top. I can hit G to move it around, just G on my computer, and I can move that. If I wanted to size it or scale it, oh, that happened really fast. You just hit S and you can move it up and down to make it smaller. So feel free to play around with that. I'm going to make mine kind of small. I might have G to move it around, put it on top. And if I want to rotate it, I just hit R. So again, we have S to scale, G to transform or move, and R to rotate. So if I wanted to move this around, I could use this little tool here. So again, this little tool has all of our axes. So you can really move this around and explore it. The shortcut for that is, again, on that little scroll ball on your mouse, you can just push down. Whoops, and then it was hard to do sitting with it in the air, but if you just push on that little scroll or that middle button on your mouse, you can also kind of drag and move things around there. So again, that's the long way, and then the scroll bar is the short way. So that was a quick refresher on our controls. I'm just going to add a couple more shapes to make it interesting. You can add whatever shapes you like. I'm just going to do Shift A, mesh, and I might add some more shapes. Again, G to move it, S to scale it, and R to rotate it. So feel free to experiment as much as you like with this. You can also do it the long ways. So you can go up here, you can move it on whatever axes you like. Or you can even kind of use these in-betweens to move it around. So I'm going to move this one back a little bit. Oops. Well, I don't want it to be up super high. Okay. And then I might move it back using my red. Perfect. And you can see where it kind of disappears into your backdrop. Maybe I'll add 2 more shapes. Again, just Shift A, mesh. And this is kind of a fun time where you can really play around with the different shapes. Kind of see what they have. Oops. My goodness, I don't want. Oh, make sure you're on your select tool if you're going to use any of the shortcuts, just because that makes it a little bit easier. You can put things on top of each other. You can move things around. And I guess I'll add one more. So Shift A, or you can go the long way. And I might choose to add a sphere. So again, T for moving it, or T for, not T, R for rotate, S for scale, and G to translate or move it around. Okay. And then maybe I'll move this right here. Again, you can kind of move around, see where things are. Because sometimes it kind of looks like it's somewhere and it's not where you think it is because of the scale or the background just makes it look a little bit confusing. So feel free to really play around, shift it, and see where things are. So you can create any sort of scene you like. So again, step one, create that background. Step two, add those shapes. You can be as creative as you like with that. Step three is to add our light source. So step three is a completely new step that we have not used yet. I think this step is really fun, but you can be the judge of that. So to add our light source, it's very similar to when we add color in that we need to use this little toolbar up here. So again, this little circle gives us the outlines. This is the default that we're in. This last circle right here is going to put us in the mode that we would see if we were rendering it. So this gives us a more accurate view of what we're going to make. This lets us see our light sources a little bit better. So we need to make sure we are in this mode, the viewport shading mode. This is essentially our rendering mode. And to add our light source, I'm just going to click on our background, make sure nothing's selected. And I'm going to go to Shift A. Just like I would if I were to add a mesh. But instead of going to mesh, I'm going to scroll all the way down to where it says light. Now there are 4 different types of light. There's point, there's sun, there's spot, and then there's area. Feel free to play around with these. This project doesn't really require you to use any specific sort of light. Personally, I really like point. And I really like spot the best, but that's just me personally. So I'm going to show you how to use those two because I think they show up really well. You can feel free to add different ones, experiment. Those are all valid and you still get points for those. But I'm just going to start with point. Okay, so again, Shift A, light, and then choose the lighting source you like. I started with point. So we can see it right here. And we can even see if you look closely, it's even given off a little bit of light. You can see this looks a little bit lighter than the gray background. All of our same tools apply with our light like they do with our meshes. So if I want to move it, you can make sure it's selected and then hit G. You can move it around. You can see how it's shining on our different objects. You can hit, you can move it on different planes. You can rotate it, which doesn't really do much, but you technically can. And scale really doesn't do much, but you can move it the same way. Oops, okay. There we go. Make sure you're actually on your light and not your background. I just made that mistake and I'm just going to hit undo and put that back the way it was. Okay, so that's an easy mistake to fix, but that's still there for you. So if you look back on this little toolbar, just like we would do color, but instead of selecting this button, we're going to want to be on the little light bulb. So this little light bulb we can see has point, sun, spot, area. We can see that we're selected on point because that's what we selected when we did Shift A. So we can really have fun and play around with this. We can choose a different color. We can see how that's affecting our scene. I think I'm going to make it. Actually, I think I'll do blue. I think that would be really cool, or like a purpley. So you can mess around with these other features too. Power is at 10 watts, almost like you would buy a 10-watt light bulb, but you can really play around with this. You could make this 500 watts if you like, and you can see how that makes it so much brighter. Diffuse is just affects where, how far, where your light ends. So when it ends, is it really harsh or is it kind of a smooth transition? Volume is how, I'm not sure what volume means, to be honest. I'll look that up. And then radius is essentially how far it spans. So if we wanted it to be 1, we could see that's a little bit different. I'm going to go back to the 0.25 because I kind of liked the way that looked. But you can really play around and have a lot of fun with that. So I'm actually just going to click on use my center, scroll, kind of play around, move around, and you can see all of these different shapes from different angles with this light, which is pretty cool. So I'm actually going to add another light source. You can add as many light sources as you like. I think that's pretty fun, but it's up to you. You can add 1 if you like, you can add 10 if you like, whatever floats your boat is totally fine. But again, I'm just going to go to Shift A. I'm going to scroll all the way down to light. And then I'm going to select what type of light I like. I just did point. So now I'm going to go to spot, show you what that one looks like. So spot is hiding underneath our, what's it called, underneath our plane. So I'm just going to move it and maybe make it a little bit smaller because it is kind of giant. So I'm going to make sure that's selected, which it is. I'm going to hit G so I can move it up. I might actually need to scroll out a little bit because it's so giant. And there we go. We can move it by using G, or we can also move it using this right here, which is also pretty fun. I'm going to make it quite a bit smaller to make it more manageable by just doing S, make sure it's selected, and then doing S. Oh gosh, it is so big. Oh, it's like kind of freaking out a little bit. Okay. So hold on 1 second. Okay, so I'm actually going to go to my left toolbar. I'm going to do it manually instead of the shortcut because my shortcut is glitching out a little bit, but I can just change the size of it here, which is pretty cool. So again, you can change that size like that. If you want to move it, again, that is G. So I'm just going to click on that and move it around. You can also use it on this, which is pretty cool. You can change what plane it's on. Okay, so it's selected. I'm just going to hit G and move it over top of wherever I want it to go. So I think I'm going to put it right over top of this shape. I can go in and I can see. I can change my color. So I might choose to make this a blue color, and I can change my wattage. So again, you can make it 10, you can make it 1,000. Whatever you want to do, you can change the radius, you can change diffuse, whatever you want to do, and you can really see how that changes your model. So I might add maybe 1 more light. So again, how to change your light is you're just going to Shift A, add light, and then you can choose which one you like. I might do another point. To move, it does follow the same rules. So I'm just going to use G to move that. Again, you can rotate it, you can, which works better with the spotlights, but technically you can do it on the point. Again, for that point, in the right-hand corner, you can edit all of these things. Like you can add color, you can add power. I might try and make this one 900, see what happens. That really changes it. Ooh, we can even change the color. Oh, that looks really cool. Really have some fun with it. Wow, I might keep it like that orange color. I think that looks pretty cool. Okay, so you can really play around with it, have a lot of fun. And again, you can, I'm just clicking on that scroll or that middle button to really see it from different angles, which is pretty cool. If you're using the trackpad on your laptop or you don't have that feature on your mouse, you can just use that same thing up here, which is pretty cool. So I think this is the fun part. I think adding color is pretty cool to it. So again, we did step 1, creating that backdrop. Step 2, adding our shapes. Step 3, adding our light. Last step we're going to do is we're going to render it. So to render, I'm going to be using this toolbar that is at the very, very top. You've got File, Edit, Render, Windows, Help, Layout, Modeling, it goes on. I'm just going to go to Render, hit Render Image. The shortcut is F2, and there's your image. So you can save it from here, or you can just screenshot whatever you want to do. I'm just going to do Windows Shift S. And there you go. So make sure you save everything. Our final project is to create a portfolio of all the work you've done. So once you've done it, make sure you don't have to do it again for your portfolio. So just save it. You can upload it directly into Edio. You can keep it safe in a file on your computer. But there you go. There is our Unit 7 project.